factual information that lulled the computer into a false sense of complacency. And because the Israelis had yielded their thinking ability to a computer, they went into Yom Kippur mode. And I don't mean this year, I mean 1973, where once again, all the information was there that an attack was going to take place. Hamas said an attack was going to take place. This is not a secret. Hamas has been saying over and over and over again, this is coming. We are going to do this. We will avenge the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So any thinking person, any rational person would have said, we need to prepare for this. But because Israel yielded its thought process to a computer programmed by people who did not respect Hamas, this intelligence failure took place. That's what I firmly believe.
Now, the whole of the south of Israel was, for a time, out with the control of the government in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem. The Palestinian militants, the factions, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, many groups, some of which I actually hadn't heard of before. They were all running amok. They were attacking settlements and settlers. They were defeating Israeli forces that they found. They were capturing Israeli police stations, military bases, prisons even. Why did it take Israel so long to get on top of the situation, even given the caveats that you've just made about how they missed it coming in the first place?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, we'll never know until the Israelis do an honest to goodness, form a commission to do a politically neutral autopsy on what happened here. But I can speculate, and I just want everybody to understand that that's exactly what's happening right now is speculation. Israel has been a fundamentally broken state in terms of domestic politics for some time now, ever since Bibi Netanyahu returned as prime minister. His corruption followed him, his attempt to shield himself from prosecution by taking over the court system so that he and he alone can appoint judges that are favorable to his position has divided this nation, the nation of Israel, like never before. Prior to the Hamas attack, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets on a regular basis to protest Benjamin Netanyahu. Thousands of Israeli reservists, the very reservists who are being called up now, said they will not serve an Israel that has a Bibi Netanyahu who violates the basic fundamentals of law there. So Israel was a divided nation. The military also, I believe, has just taken a unique stance regarding modern warfare. Look, there are many Russians right now who have learned the hard lessons of war over the course of the past 600 plus days in Ukraine, who are looking at the imagery of the Israeli military response saying, these are the most amateurish people we have ever seen in our lives. Their tactics, their approach, the timid nature of these soldiers is shocking. I think the Israeli army has lost the ability to close with and destroy the enemy through firepower and maneuver. They are so casualty averse that they've created a whole unit based upon unique technologies to let robots do the fighting for them. They let computers do the thinking for them. The last thing they want to do is put one of their soldiers on the ground against somebody who is trained and capable of killing them. They're very good at beating up women, beating up children, beating up villagers, beating up old men, old women, but they're not very good at fighting people who stand up and fight back. And let's be clear here, the Hamas people who are fighting right now, these are lightly armed people with what their courage is cannot be doubted, but their skill set is limited. These are people who have not had the advantages of the military training and technology that the Israelis had, and yet they're fighting them still today, as we speak, outside of the Gaza Strip, in Israeli territory. They hold 30% of the territory that they captured on day one, and they are fighting. The Israelis can't beat them yet. They will beat them. There's no doubt about that. But Israel has forgot how to fight. They have forgot, because Yom Kippur 1973 was so bloody for them. Their experience in Lebanon was so bloody for them that they said, never again, we won't do that kind of fighting. Unfortunately, when you raise the level of hatred in a captive population, such as the Palestinians in Gaza, and those people decide to rise up, you are going to have to fight. There's a lot of incompetence going on in Israel right now. There's tremendous amount of military incompetence. The people I feel sorry for, to be honest, I mean, I'm just being frank here, are the Israelis who lived in the South. Not because of, there's a political question of should they be there, et cetera, et cetera. But these are people who believe the Israeli government when the Israeli government said, we will keep you safe. You can go to sleep at night. You will be safe. We will be there for you. If anything happens to you, we will come for you. And they were abandoned by their government, abandoned by their military. They're still abandoned to this day. Shame on the Israeli government. Shame on the Israeli military. There should be mass resignations, but this is all done because the men and women who wear the uniform today, who didn't come to the rescue of these Israelis in their time of need, should be evicted from their positions.
If Israel does invade on the ground, and given that there are now a very substantial number, more than there have ever been before, of Israeli prisoners taken in this Al-Aqsa operation, Al-Aqsa flood, there are real problems about a ground invasion that imperils we now know many Americans are amongst those who have been taken prisoner. These prisoners, hostages, will be held in exchange, hoping to exchange them for the 5,000 plus political prisoners in Israeli jails. So a ground invasion is fraught with that difficulty of harming their own people, but also the risk of bringing Hezbollah into the conflict, and thus the possibility of a very big war, two-sided war, indeed. So do you think they are going to go in? And if so, how will that work out?
Israel conducted a major military exercise earlier this year that tested this very scenario. What would happen if an uprising in the West Bank, uprising in Gaza, Hezbollah intervenes in the north, Iran intervenes? What would Israel do? And they did this major exercise, and it turned out that Israel lost. Israel can't win that war. So Bibi Netanyahu knows this. He was the prime minister when this exercise was held. His senior military officers know this. And so I have to believe that they're not suicidal. And now the question they are probably asking themselves is Hezbollah bluffing? Will Hezbollah really commit to this fight? Or is this just a bluff, and should we call Hezbollah's bluff? Because there's a tremendous amount of political pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu now to be seen as doing something decisive to bring this Hamas issue to an end. And that requires a major military move into Gaza, which I will tell you right now, Israel will lose. Will lose. Because the Israeli army can't suffer casualties. Going into urban warfare, if you've learned anything from Mariupol, if you've learned anything from Bakhmut, these horrible names that have come out, and I say horrible because of the death and destruction that took place in the fighting for these places, Gaza will become like that and worse. The Israelis will suffer losses like they can't even imagine, greater than the Yom Kippur War in its totality. And this is politically unacceptable for Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli people. So I can't tell you what they're going to do. What I can say is that if they go into Gaza, they will have to stop their operation almost immediately, because every force there in Gaza will be needed in northern Israel, because when Hezbollah comes in, they will make what Hamas did the other day look like child's play. The entire north will fall. Haifa could be put at risk. Hezbollah will come in a very serious fashion. Their missiles, their rockets are not these bottle rockets launched by the Hamas, and I'm being a little facetious here, but those are children's toys compared to the modern precision-guided missiles that Hezbollah has. Tel Aviv will be destroyed. The Kiryat, in the center of Tel Aviv, where the military headquarters is, will be flattened. The prime minister's residence will be flattened. Israel will be flattened. Its airfields flattened. That's the future of Israel, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. The Iron Dome doesn't work. Their missile defense systems do not work. And then when Hezbollah attacks and shows victory, you think Syria is going to remain silent about the Golan Heights. No, Syria will move on the Golan Heights. They have 2 divisions they brought up to combat readiness as we speak. And if Syria gets engaged, will Iran stand on the sideline? Iran understanding now with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Syria decisively engaged, now is the time to end the Israeli threat once and for all. And Iran will become involved. And now we've seen the strategic defeat of Israel. And this, I think, the Israelis understand.
All of this, Scott, is a symptom, if that's the right word, of the huge changes that are going on in the world, aren't they? That Iran was once a kind of beaten and isolated power, is now no longer isolated and militarily extremely strong, with probably the world's greatest drone industry. The axis of resistance, they call themselves, of Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Hezbollah in Lebanon is a very, very potent crescent indeed. And it's allied with the new great powers, Russia and China, who would not allow any of these places to be destroyed by an American-Israeli coalition. So this is all happening because everybody's emboldened by the new world political situation, aren't they?
Look, there was a day and age where America could put 750,000 to 1 million troops in the Middle East in a matter of weeks and change the outcome of any conflict. That day is long past. Today we have a military that's a shadow of its former self, incapable of meaningfully projecting power into areas of the world that have been hardened against that very possibility. Iran's ability to sink American ships at a distance has changed the algorithms that are used there. And Iran knows this. America knows this. You're 100% correct. They've become emboldened, but not emboldened based upon irresponsible calculations, emboldened to be the nations they have every right to be. Iran has every right to be a major player in the region because it is a major player in the region, and it will no longer allow the United States and Israel working together with the Gulf Arab states to keep it down. In fact, thanks to China, they've repaired relations with the Saudis, and they're moving in the right direction there. The United States today is confronting its impotence in Europe and in Asia. Right now, I can guarantee you in the Situation Room at the White House, the Pentagon is saying, boss, we can't do it. We can't do anymore. We're already broke. If this thing blows up in the Middle East, it's game, set, match. We're done as an economy. Because if Iran does get pulled in and then we respond, there goes all the oil production capability in the Middle East. And that's the end of the modern era of humanity, because without that oil, the economy of the world will come screeching to a halt. They know this. And so I think the United States right now is telling Israel, you're going to have a couple days to feel good. Bomb as many buildings, because we never cared about the Palestinian people, George, you know that. Bomb as many buildings as you can. Kill as many people as you want. But then it's over, because we can't allow it to escalate further. And that could be the end of Bibi Netanyahu, because he will be exposed as the fraud, as the liar, as the insecure old man that he is. And hopefully the Israelis will replace him with somebody who will say never again, but not never again the standpoint that Israel is going to become so strong and mighty that they will forever deter violence through fear. Never again, meaning it's time to seek a meaningful peace with the Palestinian people, because that's the only way we emerge from this without more war. A meaningful peace that respects the dignity and the sovereignty of the Palestinian people. Unfortunately, George, you're 100% correct. I mean, this is a conflict that cannot end until one side or the other has been decisively beaten and is willing to make the kind of compromises that they're not willing to make now. And frankly speaking, given the level of suffering that the Palestinian people have undergone over the past 7 decades, they're not likely to be the side that breaks first. Israel is a fundamentally broken nation morally. It's a nation that, regardless of what you think, I know some people take umbrage at this, but I happen to be somebody who believes that Israel has the right to exist, and that we should respect Israel's right to exist, but not in the way that it exists today. You can't exist on the backs of people that you've enslaved, and they have enslaved the Palestinians. In fact, it's worse than slavery, because slaves at least get to have the pretense of working in the fields, pretending for a moment maybe they're free. The Palestinians, especially those in Gaza, are stuck in this open-air prison, not of their own construct. Israel underwent a fundamental change in its demographics and politics in the 1990s when they opened the doors to the former Soviet Union, and hundreds of thousands of Soviet Jews fled to Israel, altering the balance. When I was in Israel in the 1990s, there was a struggle between right and left, but both agreed that there was a necessity for peace. However imperfect their political solutions might have been, I know for a fact that Yitzhak Rabin was looking for a peaceful outcome, looking for a settlement before he was assassinated by a right-wing Israeli. And now Benjamin Netanyahu has stepped into the gap, and ever since then, Israel has been drifting towards an even more radical right-wing solution. As long as Benjamin Netanyahu and his ilk are in power in Israel, there is no hope for peace, none whatsoever. And you are right, Israel will go into Gaza with a vengeance, and hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinians will lose their lives. And in the end, some morally conscious nation, and I say that with the greatest, I don't believe it. There's no such thing as a morally conscious nation that keeps their tongue silent now. But some nation, the United States perhaps, will say enough is enough. Even we can't stomach the slaughter that you have perpetrated, and it's time to bring this fighting to a halt, and the cycle will begin all over again until the next time. Now, the only hope for this outcome not to go that way is if Hezbollah gets involved in a major way and breaks the paradigm. And if Hezbollah is backed by Syria and Syria is backed by Iran, and then we will see the strategic defeat of Israel. We may see the end of Benjamin Netanyahu physically or politically, and whatever replaces him in Israel will be somebody who is compelled by this defeat to seek peace in a way that's equitable for the Palestinian people. But until which time Israel is strategically defeated, there's no hope for peace, none whatsoever, because Israel, as it currently exists, can't have peace, because peace requires them to treat the Palestinian people with respect, with dignity. And Israel today is incapable of treating the Palestinian people with the respect and dignity, not only that they deserve, but that they demand. What happened yesterday, as violent and ugly as it was a manifestation of the demand that Palestinians be treated seriously. It was also underground. And the Houthi, just a big country, and they're able to shuffle things around. They've been doing it since 2014 against American airplanes flown by Saudi pilots. So I think they've countered that.
Aries, that might be pronounced, last name P, in the United States of America. Gonzalo Lira met his demise in the hands of the Ukrainian secret police. Do you stand by your previous statements that he was a turned collaborator, or will you be revising your position?
Look, Gonzalo Lira's death was a tragedy. I'm sorry he's dead. I wish he hadn't died. I wish he had received care. I wish the United States government had shown concern for Gonzalo along the lines of the concern they show for the Wall Street Journal reporter who was arrested in Russia, ostensibly for spying. But that's not the issue. The question is what I previously said. What's the gentleman's name? I want to be
Aries, A-R-E-S. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Aries. Answer me this question, Aries. This is a simple mind problem here. You got Gonzalo Lira,
in Kharkov, that's Ukraine, by the way, broadcasting on the internet in a manner which violates Ukrainian law. We know that. He knew that. He said so. He said, yeah, I'm breaking all sorts of laws here. And those laws that he violated carried the death penalty. He knew that too, because he said, if I'm ever arrested and I'm gone for more than 12 hours, assume I'm dead. Well, guess what, Aries? He got arrested by the Ukrainian Secret Service. Should have died, right? I mean, he was after violating the laws. Should have died, right? No, 5 days later, he's released. He called it my missing week. He sort of smirked about it. He's under house arrest. He has an ankle bracelet on him, and they give him his computers back. To do what, Aries? To continue doing the exact thing he was doing when he was arrested, violating Ukrainian law. Come on, man. Turn on your brain for a second. Do you think he did that with the permission of the Ukrainian government? Or was he so bold and brave that even under house arrest, using computers given to him by the Ukrainian government, he was trying to exercise free speech? And he wasn't doing it covertly. He had a whole new roundtable format where he's bringing people in and all this kind of stuff. Dude, I've been around the block. I know counterintelligence. I know how these operations work. There is no other way to describe this other than that he was a controlled SBU asset. He was arrested, charged with crimes that bring the death penalty. He was released and allowed to do the exact same thing while under house arrest. Okay, if you can't square that curve, don't talk to me.
All right. Yeah, I don't really understand the flack you get about this. First of all, I think you're right. And even if you're not, you're just giving your opinion about what happened. It's not as if you said anything that's disrespectful towards him, I don't think.
Well, I mean, some people say, oh, well, you say he's a controlled asset. You tell me. I mean, all the people go, bullshit, Scott, fuck off, Bronson. What do you know, Bronson? What are your credentials? Are you a counterintelligence agent? Have you ever done this for a fucking living? I have, asshole. Okay. I know a controlled asset when I see a controlled asset. And Gonzalo Lira was a controlled asset. And all you assholes out there who fell in love with Dr. Red Pill and whatever he had to say, up to the first arrest. Greenhorn, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with that. But once he was arrested and then released under house arrest to do the exact same thing, there ain't no other explanation, pal. None. Zero. Zip. So shut the fuck up. I'm tired of this conversation. I really am. You guys fell in love with Gonzalo Lira. That's your own little fantasy world. Leave me the fuck out of it.
All right. So in other words, you will be revising your position on Gonzalo Lira.
Yeah, I'll deliver it in Morse code.
All right. Guy from Tel Aviv, Israel. What's your current understanding of the potential war between Israel and Lebanon and its potential outcomes? Living here, it's pretty frightening thinking what the Lebanese arsenal can do to where I live. Netanyahu is a psychopath and going to get us killed.
Yeah, I mean, look, my understanding of the potential war between Israel and Lebanon, let's put it this way. Israel's fought 2 stand-up fights with Hezbollah, and they lost them both. Hezbollah kicked the living shit out of Israel in southern Lebanon, evicting them from every place but the Sheba farms. I think that was in 2000. In 2006, Israel and Hezbollah had another go-around, 33 days in the summer, and Hezbollah beat Israel then too. And now, what Israel's saying is, we're going to take the fight to Hezbollah. We're going to push Hezbollah back to the Litani River. And Hezbollah, you think they sat there and went, yeah, let's get ready to let the Israelis do what they want to do. Let's prepare defenses all the way up to the Litani River in depth, because we know the Israelis have been preparing to do this. The Hezbollah said this: if there's another war, it ain't going to be fought defending the Litani. We're going to make you defend northern Israel. We're going to seize Galilee. And that's the reality. When this war starts, Israel's going to punch about 30,000 troops up into southern Lebanon towards the Litani, and then about 15 to 20,000 Hezbollah fighters are going to appear in their rear in, Kiryat Shimona and other places, and they're going to seize northern Israel. They're going to take it up to the Galilee, and there's not a damn thing Israel can do it down. Meanwhile, Israel, what about the Israeli Air Force? They have to take off and land somewhere, right? Are we agree with that? It's not magic. It's not a computer game where they can just magically, click, 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 click. The Israeli Air Force is here. They got to be on a base. That base is on land. That land is within a range of Hezbollah's precision-guided munitions. And they will eliminate these bases and the airplanes that operate on these bases. So Israel won't have an air force. Not only that, but every strategic target in Israel will be saturated with long-range precision strike missiles coming out of Hezbollah that aren't the unguided rockets being fired by Hamas from Gaza. It's going to be the real deal. It's game, set, match. Israel can't win. And so fortunately, the Israeli army knows this. They're aware of this, and they're not going to commit suicide. I think Netanyahu has got to go, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people are pushing for him to go, because his only ability to stay in power is to be relevant as a wartime leader. He just lost in Hamas, against Hamas and Gaza. I hope all the Israelis understand. You guys lost. Take the L, man. And now the only way he can stay relevant is to have a new war. And he's talking about it with Hezbollah, but he'll take Israel down with it. And I'm starting to believe that the Israelis recognize this, and there's a big movement now within Israel for him to take a hike.
All right, let's do one more question and then do the coin giveaway. Even though he typed in all caps, we'll make an exception and take this question anyway. You know how that drives me crazy. Kareem Abulafa in the United Kingdom. Last year, some commentators were talking about a civil war in Israel due to the judicial reforms Netanyahu was trying to force through. It exposed major fissures in Israeli society. Once the Gaza assault and other local conflicts come to end, will these fissures within Israeli society be intensified? Will there be a civil war?
Well, I mean, you're right. The judicial reforms, the rewriting of Israeli basic law, did create serious fissures. The Israeli Supreme Court has ruled against Netanyahu's efforts to subordinate the Israeli judiciary to a politicized Knesset, and so that's done away with. This is why Netanyahu's so desperate right now, because he knows that he's going to be arrested and charged and all that. So I think what's happening is he's trying to work out a mechanism where he is granted some sort of amnesty, so that if he relinquishes power, that he won't be arrested, that he will be allowed to either go into exile or internally or externally. I don't think he's going to hang around Israel much longer, because there will be a commission about October 7th and what happened and the crimes committed, and he and his government won't fare well. That commission could get very ugly, but I don't think you're going to see a civil war come from it. But I will say this: back in 1998, when I was working with Israeli intelligence, a colonel whose job it was to put together the assessment, the ranking of threats to Israel, said that the number one threat to Israel was from far right-wing Israeli Jewish Orthodox extremists. He recognized that in 1998, and that's the reality today. So there's a big problem. You have a lot of people with weapons. How Israel is going to deal with the West Bank settlers is still an unanswered question. But I don't think they're going to go to civil war. I think that the revision of basic law could have taken them down that direction. The Israeli president warned about that, but that problem's been resolved. Let me. I have been told that there's a new kill list out, different than the Mir Tvoritz kill list, and that I feature prominently in that. So, and that this one is actually coordinated with Western intelligence. There's a known linkage with British intelligence, for example, and they are encouraging. They're through the website. They've placed $10,000. God, if you're going to kill me, come on, man, earn more than 10,000. That's sort of cheap, really. Make it 50, make it 100, but 10, that's insulting. But so it's there. And while I was traveling, there were concerns that that the Ukrainians were, or could be, or would be, or are, who knows, actively targeting. So it's not fantasy; it's real. I was also briefed by people who are knowledgeable of these things that I should be really concerned here in the United States, not just over in Russia, that there are elements of the American-Ukrainian society that are unstable. And the closer Ukrainian defeat comes to being actualized, the more desperate they might become. So it's a threat. Israel, look, the Israelis have, they're insane right now. They are literally governed by insane people. who knows? It is what it is. There's not much you can do about it. I can say that I don't really give a shit. If you're going to kill me. Don't. I prefer you don't.
They'll have to get past Maverick first.
But Maverick will kick your ass, and then Machismo, my secret asset, the Chihuahua from hell, will rip your throat out. And Tegan, the big older shepherd dog, will just watch it all and advise. But the point is, you can't live your life in fear. If you're going to try and do the right thing and you have plenty of enemies trying to stop you, the quickest way to stop you is through intimidation. And they've been trying to intimidate me my entire life. It isn't going to work. I'm not saying this from bravado, because I don't want to die. I don't want to get shot. I don't want my family put at risk. I'd prefer to have a nice, happy life. I ain't getting any younger. So it's not like I'm sitting there saying, bring it on. No, don't bring it on. Leave me the fuck alone. But I'm not going to stop doing what I do, because people out there are trying to intimidate me and others into silence. And I would hope that others on the list, and I know some, Diane Sayre's on the list, others are on the list, Ray McGovern, we have so many friends on that list. None of them are shutting up, and nor should they. So to all the people that think they can silence me, pound sand. It ain't going to work.
All right. Everybody who's anybody is on that list.
You'll be on it too, Jeff. We'll get you on that list.
Yeah, by hanging out with you. That's how they're
right.
taking Trump. How they're taking Trump down. All the people around him are getting hassled in one way or another. Old Blind Jim, how would you feel about lowering your computer?
I just did, sir. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, sir. What would you like to say to Scott?
Okay. I do empathize with Scott on his feelings, and I empathize with you on your outlook about Tucker Carlson. He does need to revamp the way he goes about things. Now, I was thinking that possibly after this interview with Putin, maybe Scott could possibly reach out to the people he knows in Chechnya and wherever else he's been to see if he could possibly make a connection with Vladimir Putin. And possibly he could also get in touch with Tucker Carlson to see if Tucker would interview him and people like Diane Sayre and, the rest of the people on the list. That way, I think there would be more of an avalanche of the people of this country getting more knowledge in a faster way. So that's my question to Scott. And
all right. Again, Jeff. Thanks for calling. You can listen to Scott's answer on your computer. All the best, Old Blind Jim. Thank you very much.
Let me put it this way. Jeff, you can back me up on this. I'm not a journalist. I mean, I play one on TV. I function as a journalist. I write articles. I go and do research. I travel and I comment on that. So I engage in journalism, but I'm not the guy to interview Vladimir Putin. It's not my place to do that. I mean, I would love to have a conversation with Vladimir Putin, and if we recorded that conversation could be played. That would be wonderful. But I'm not a journalist. First of all, a journalist is not an expert. A journalist is a person who writes questions and asks questions. I'm a freaking expert. Okay. I'm not a journalist that sits there and has somebody else do the research for me and ask questions. No, I engage on that which I'm an expert in, and I'm very comfortable doing that. And I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with anybody in Russia, especially the Russian president, about the status of U.S.-Russian relations, about arms control, about Russia itself. I'd love to get more insight from Vladimir Putin about the decade of the 90s and the problems he faced in those formative years of his presidency, the first term, as he dragged Russia out of that. I'd like to have more insight into that. I'd love to have a conversation with him about that. But I'm not going to compete with Tucker Carlson on an interview. Tucker Carlson's got this unique opportunity, and hopefully he knocks it out of the ballpark. And it's there. And the last thing I would want to do is go in and have this is Oscar award level interview. What, I'm supposed to come in with a B level movie and compete with that? No, that ain't going to be what I do. What I would like to do is talk to Tucker Carlson when he gets back. about his experience in Russia, and to compare notes about Russia, and to talk about Russophobia, because now Tucker's starting to experience firsthand something I've been experiencing for a long time: the attacks. And I'd love to have a conversation with Tucker Carlson about what it means to be an American, how the true definition of patriotism isn't to sit back and nod your head dumbly at what the U.S. government tells you to nod your head at, but rather to go out and challenge the U.S. government to gather knowledge and information. What is the motto of the show? Knowledge is power. We sell a t-shirt that says that. Well, Tucker Carlson's in the business of gathering knowledge, and it will empower you. I'd love to have that conversation with Tucker. So, Tucker, if you're listening, if you're watching, or if any of your people are watching, when you get back, call me. And I'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you.
All right. Well, whether you call it an interview or a conversation, every Wednesday, Scott hosts the Scott Ritter Show, in which the guest is a military expert, usually from Russia, and they have what I would call an interview, but you can call it a conversation if you want. In any case, it streams every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. on Rumble and Locals. And you can get links to those channels directly if you go to scottritter.us. The URL is right at the bottom there. And let us move on to the next question.
Well, this
from
week, just
Charmaine.
so everybody knows, this week the interview is with the former Prime Minister of Ukraine, Nikolai, and
you weren't ready for this.
Oh God, I wasn't ready for you to bring that up. But Azarov, Nikolai Azarov. And so we had a very nice conversation about the current state of civil military affairs or relations in Ukraine, the Zelensky-Zaluzhny controversy, and what the path to peace could look like.
All right. And if you're not already familiar with how to find us on Rumble or Locals, quickest, easiest way to get there is scottritter.us, and you will see the links there. The next question is from Charmaine in Oregon. I just watched HBO's 5-part series on Chernobyl. Have you seen it? Thoughts on the series? It certainly captured the bravery of Russians.
Well, the first thing you have to understand about the series is that while I think it did a fantastic job of covering the real situation, beware, because there are some characters there who are an amalgam of characters. They've taken like 5 people and made them into one. You have to do that for shows of this nature, because to tell the truth using all the personalities, it would just get too confusing for TV. So they did simplify. But I went in and I dug deep into into each of the characters and the storyline, and they nailed it. I mean, there's even the people who lived through it are like, yeah, no, that's what it was. And I would recommend that show to anybody. I think it was fantastic. I've watched it several times. It's just it's an engrossing show. It's a terrifying show. But I think the person nailed it right. The heroism of the Russians, of the Soviets, because it was indeed during Soviet times, the heroism displayed by people, especially those knowing they were going to die. I mean, the people did things with absolute knowledge that they were going to lose their lives because of this. And many of them did die of cancer, excruciatingly. It's just, I think, I would just recommend it to anybody. It was a very informative show, but I mean, if you're not near tears by the end of the show, then you're not a human being.
All right. In the interest of full disclosure, we should tell folks that I am, in fact, an AI-generated composite myself, sort of a combination between Fabio and Larry David. In case it wasn't obvious, it's about time we came clean on that. Hey, Scott, how about a voicemail message from a woman named Rowan who wants to know about Russian hospitals?
Hi, Scott and Jeff. I had a question for Scott. I wondered, as a healthcare worker, if while you were in Russia, you had a chance to visit any hospitals or casualty units, and how those might differ from those in the U.S. Thank you.
Well, I need Jeff to take me off the 3-minute timer for this one, because it's
really, you want me to not do it for this?
If I'm going to answer this one seriously, then I have to tell a little bit of a story.
All right. we won't put you on the 3-minute clock.
With
Go
your
ahead.
permission. Look, when I was in Russia in May, Alexander Ziryanov, who the people in the show should be familiar with, he was interviewed by us while I was in Russia this last time. He was outstanding host, and but people may not know it, but I suffer from pretty bad peripheral neuropathy. My legs don't work, and I sort of have to retrain myself to walk every morning because I have no feeling in my legs, so I have to get up in position, and I do my best. I get on with it, but he noticed me getting out of the vehicle that he's sitting there going, "Hey, there's something wrong with this dude." He said, "You all right?" And I said, "Well, not really, but I'll get on." But he was concerned, and so he, I told you he has the magic phone, and so he picked up the phone and he called a doctor, and next thing you know, I have an interview, not an interview, but I have an appointment at the world's preeminent neurological hospital. It's not just in Russia, but the entire world. And the name of it begins with an S, like the Schiff Institute or the Schliff, or one of the people in the comments, please help me out here. I know you guys know what I'm talking about, so please put it in there. My brain forgets words every once in a while. So like Bab al Mandeb, I have trouble saying that for a long time. But they took me there, and they ran me through an entire day's worth of tests and batteries and stuff like this. And then there was follow-on treatment. I had to go to several clinics for follow-on treatment. And I guess this is a way of saying that, I went into hospitals and I saw it. And I will tell you that the Russians are very professional. They're very courteous. They care about the patients. They care about positive outcomes. And no, it wasn't the Burdenko Hospital. Thanks, Alex. It begins with an S. It's the something institute, Schliff or Schiff or something of that nature. But the level of care was unmatched. And look, I've been treated in the United States for this. I've gone to clinic. And I got in a day what it would have taken me 3 to 4 separate appointments in the United States, which means, going, waiting in lines, waiting for hours, They just bang, 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 bang. And I don't know if that's because they were trying, there it is, the Sklifovsky. Sergei Lapin wins the prize. We should get Sergei a damn coin for this. The Sklifov, and Alexei got it too. The Sklifovsky, that's it, Institute. They did a fantastic job. Someone asked what the bill was. How much was the bill? Free. Didn't cost me a damn thing. Now that could be because they were treating me nicely or whatever. There's a journalist right now who normally reports, I think his last name is Miller. I can't remember his first name, but he just in his tweet, he's like, "Hey, I haven't been tweeting for a while because I was in Moscow and I slipped on the ice and shattered my hip." And he went and had to get surgery done and corrective surgery and all that stuff. He said the bill for his total stay was $200. Which sounds about right. So, I don't know. I'm not an expert on Russian healthcare. I don't pretend to be. But what I can say is to the extent that I interfaced with it, and the Sklifovsky, there it is. That's the answer. And to all the doctors there, I apologize for not being able to say that name, but I challenge anybody in this watching this right now. That's a tongue twister. Try and say it 3 times real quick, and you're not going to be able to. But
I know even seeing it right in front of you, it's hard, let alone remembering it.
Yeah, but they did a fantastic job. They were professional. They were courteous. They care. That's the important thing. And then I'll throw in a little aside here. My daughter Victoria was having some health issues there, and so they went ahead and brought her in and gave her a whole battery of tests and everything. And again, just the kindness. We were guests in their country. They're like, "We ain't letting you go down on our watch. We're going to watch you." And then just so everybody know here that medical tourism at its finest. I don't know if that's a insult or a compliment, but it wasn't meant to be medical tourism. We didn't go over there for treatment. So I hope you're just doing that as a little tongue in cheek. Otherwise, You could set me off because these people were extraordinarily nice.
That's tongue in cheek. All right. Well, I suspect that Rowan thought that maybe you had observed the situation. Little did she know that you were actually a patient. So that's some firsthand information from our favorite weapons inspector. Next question is from Vova in Serbia. Why hasn't Russia expanded the no-fly zone over the Black Sea to render NATO's reconnaissance drones, which are clearly used for gathering intelligence and coordinating attacks on Crimea, less effective?
Well, to answer that question, I would basically start off by saying, do you believe, Vova, that Russia's winning the war? Do you believe that Russia is on the offensive, that Russia is making gains, that I'm going to mispronounce this one too, Advika is about to fall, that the Russians are making dramatic gains in Kupiansk, that that the Ukrainians are on the run? And if the answer is yes, you believe that, and there's no reason for you not to believe that, then ask yourself the following question. Why, given all the totality of circumstances, if Russia is achieving the outcome that it wants to achieve, would Russia do anything that could possibly create the conditions where NATO would intervene, thereby complicating the objectives that Russia is on the verge of accomplishing? And the answer is that Russia is not going to do that. So, yeah, you're right. The global hawks and the other aircraft are out there gathering intelligence, and there's no Advievka. Thank you, Emo. I love these people because they recognize
what an audience.
I am challenged, but the point is they're just not going to. Russia's not going to allow anything to happen that changes the outcome that they've fought so hard to get, which is victory.
DW in New York. I'm not sure whether you are aware, but Blinken recently visited West Africa, and there are currently publications discussing the establishment of drone bases there. How likely is it that Africa will develop into another Middle East? He's not sure if you were aware. Were you?
I'm not aware. Yeah. Look, when you say West Africa, understand this, that the United States had spent a lot of time, money, and effort putting in a drone base in Niger. And it looks like we're going to have to shut that thing down because of the deterioration of relations with Niger. Niger kicked out the French. Mali kicked out the French. Burkina Faso kicked out the French. Now the three of them have come together and created this alliance in the Sahel in West Africa. And they've recently said they're going to withdraw from ECOWAS, which is the major, it's an economic group, but it's really post-colonial domination of the region by the French, the British, and the Portuguese, all with the help of the United States. We're concerned, the United States, about the destabilizing effect of Islamic fundamentalism and things, in the region. There's Al Qaeda is there, ISIS is there, Boko Haram is there, other groups, and so we've lost our ability to impact that region directly or indirectly by the withdrawal of French troops and now American troops from these three countries. So we're looking for additional places to put our assets, and drones have become sort of the centerpiece of counterterrorism. And so, yeah, I was aware of it.
Okay, let's take another phone call. Hey there, you're on with our.
You have the whip timer back on, just to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, good. So that was number 3. That's good. I'm impressed.
Oh yeah, you've been flawless today, Scott. We have a live call coming in. Let me guess, your name is Rick.
Hello.
Hello. What's your question for Scott?
Yeah, my name is Iman. You said Rick. No, my name is Iman, and I'm calling from Ohio.
Okay, it said Rick on the caller ID, but whatever.
Oh, RIC. That's the company, because I'm talking from the office.
Okay. So what's your name again?
Iman.
Iman. Hi, Iman. What's your question for Scott?
Hey, Scott, how are you? And thank you, Jeff, for letting me. My question to you is, do you think that we might...
Lower your computer.
No, I'm watching you through my phone. So
Well, lower your
question
phone.
My question to Scott is, does you think that we're going to be seeing a ceasefire in Gaza and that would follow by a cool off on the front of Lebanon and Yemen?
Well, I think inevitably there's going to have to be a ceasefire. Israel's losing this conflict. It's an unsustainable conflict. I think that Israel has been, making noise about expanding the conflict into Lebanon against Hezbollah, but I don't think they have the ability to follow through with that. And so I think what's really happening right now is a struggle inside Israel to, about the status of Benjamin Netanyahu and his far right-wing government, and that